When I was, just last summer, I went on sabbatical. And I had the privilege of having time away on sabbatical. And I went away going, okay, various questions, things I wanted to try and work out, get clear on in terms of leading the church forward. One of them was like, how can I prepare for healthy succession in the future and things like that. And to be honest, a lot of the questions I went away with, I didn't get like, a 10-point plan for the answer. But I think I did get a very clear, simple answer. What do you want me to do in this next season? Well, more than anything else, what I felt was God say, seek first his kingdom, his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. And as I was thinking about all this other stuff, it was like, no, get back to what really matters. And what really matters is that you give yourself to seeking him, to following him, and to helping others to do the same. And one of the strange things that I did while I was on sabbatical is I wrote my own obituary. That sounds a bit dark, doesn't it? It's like I was reading a book and it suggested that was something you could think about doing, and I did. I wrote my aspirational obituary, what I would love to be written about me. When at the point, I'm not hoping it's a fair way off yet, but at that point, what would I love to be written about me? And what I found when I wrote that down was I didn't say anything about what I'd led or what I'd achieved. Actually, what I wrote and what I would have hoped to be written about me was about who I was about what I meant to people, and about how I had influenced people and settings and situations, and how far my influence had gone. And I realized that what really mattered was who I was. And what I would want more than anything else would be for people to say this: he was like Christ. Now, like I say, I wasn't saying this was an actual obituary. I was saying it's an aspirational, something I aspire to. But Jesus' heart for all of us is to help us to become more like him. And we're going to think about, how does Jesus help us to become more like him? And whoever you are here today, he wants to help you to become more like him. And he wants to help you to help others to become more like him. The disciples were incredibly ordinary people, but he saw the gold in the dirt. And as they followed Jesus, they became extraordinary, and they did absolutely extraordinary things. They began to do the things that Jesus did. They began to become like him. He saw the fisherman, and as he walked along, he said, "Come, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And their response was, it says, immediately they left their nets and they followed him. They saw something in Jesus that was worth leaving other stuff behind. And not just stuff that hardly mattered. Their nets basically was their identity and their security. And they left all that behind to find, because they saw something in Jesus, said, we're going to find our identity, we're going to find our security in you. And they went on this incredible journey. It was quite a roller coaster. They went on this incredible journey of being with Jesus and allowing him to form something in them and begin to do something in them and ultimately through them. And we're going to look at, if you've got a Bible, you might like to turn to it, Matthew chapter 16, and we're going to read verses steadily 13 to 27. And the second half of this chapter, Matthew chapter 16, is in many ways pivotal to the whole of the Gospel of Matthew. It's like it's been, the first 16 chapters are building to this moment, and then from here, we're heading to the cross. And it's like we're heading in that way right from this moment. This is right at the heart. It's a pivotal moment. And in this encounter that we see basically a number of ways that Jesus helps Peter to become more like him. And of course, he wants to help us to become more like him. How he helps us to become more the people he always intended us to be. He knows you like no one else knows you. He knows me like no one else knows me. And as we look at these verses, let's remember that today he is doing the same thing, predominantly through his word, by his Spirit, and through his people. So first of all, he asked questions. It says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. So it's quite a general question, quite a generic question, and they give quite a general answer. Well, this is what different people say. But then Jesus gets much more personal. And that's the amazing thing, is that Jesus might speak to a crowd, but he, in the midst of the crowd, will come and speak to us personally. He says, but what about you? Doesn't really matter what other people are saying. What about you? He asked. Who do you say I am? And Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. The truth is that the best teachers don't just tell you the answers. They actually draw the answers out from you. And so Jesus is there. I mean, it's like, it's taken 16 chapters. You could go, wouldn't it have just been easier? He said, come follow me, and just so you know, I'm the Messiah. It's like, it would have just saved so much time, wouldn't it? But of course it doesn't work like that, because just because he tells them, it doesn't land in the same way. Actually, something's happening. He's waiting for the penny to drop, for the lights to go on, for revelation to come. And Jesus is drawing that out from them by asking questions. Just recently, Emma and I were involved in leading a retreat for 48 hours for a group of other leaders. And Emma, as part of this, led a guided meditation around the cross. That's what we called it. Now, I have to say, that's not normally my sort of thing. I don't sort of immediately go, oh yeah, I just find that dead easy, and I just get into that, and I'm like... So I was sort of like bracing myself for it, thinking, well, we're trying to use a few different means of engaging through this retreat. And she led us through this, and I tried to give myself to it. And then she asks this question. As you're here, Jesus on the cross, it says, consider where you are standing or where you're positioned. Are you up close? Are you further away? Are you crouched down? Are you standing up? Consider where you're positioned. So I obediently did consider where I was positioned. And I was shocked to see that there I was standing, actually sort of a little bit away from Jesus, a little bit sort of at the back of the crowd looking on. And I found myself asking the question, well, why? Why am I standing there? And I felt him highlight to me that actually the reason I was standing there is because not didn't want to see the horror, not that I didn't want to see the blood, not that I didn't want to see the pain. It was actually because I don't like associating with those who are being rejected. I'm not proud to tell you that. It was like, oh, I'm just slightly removing myself so I'm not seen as being associated in quite the same way. And that was like oh. And that first question, where are you positioned, has started a whole lot of other questions that then I've had to begin to process with the Lord and think, oh, boy, Lord, why is that? What is there in me that is causing me to do that? And it's like he is dealing with something in me by asking a question. You may know the very first question in the Bible. You know what the first question in the Bible is? First question in the Bible, where are you? Why? Because Adam and Eve have hidden. And God's first question, where are you? Why? Because he didn't know. Oh, I'm trying to find you. Where are you? No, he knew exactly where they were. He's asking them a question because he's trying to face them up with what's gone on, to actually be honest with themselves that they're hiding. It's a question of love. Where are you? And today, he asks a similar question in love to many of us. Where are you? Where are you at? Where's the real you that I formed, that I created, that I made, that's now hidden away in some form because of all sorts of stuff that may have happened? Where are you? And in love, he wants us to face that question and face up to where we are, because he wants to help us not live hidden, not pretend, not hide away, but be real with ourselves and real with him. He asks questions out of love. So he asks questions. And secondly, he encouraged. Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven." And so it's like, here we go. Jesus is there. He's asked them a question. And I don't know about you, if he suddenly zeroed in on me, who do you say I am? My mind goes blank at that point. When people ask me a direct question, it's not just saying, it's like, I don't know. But he asked them a direct question. He draws something from them. And then Jesus goes, yes! Fantastic, Peter. You got it. Yes. And what's he celebrating? It's not that he's not celebrating that he got the right answer. He's celebrating how we got there. Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood. You haven't got there by human reasoning. This was by my Father in heaven revealed to you. And that's what changes everything. When you have revelation from heaven, that changes everything and changes the whole direction of your life. And all the time, that's what he's wanting to do. He's wanting to draw out genuine revelation. Because when you begin to see something that you haven't seen before, when you begin to see by the Spirit, it changes everything. You're ruined for the ordinary because you really see something. And that affects everything. And so Jesus is going to encourage that. This is it. I love it when you're living that way, when you're seeing that way. I absolutely love it. And encouragement makes a big difference, doesn't it? I live in the good of people who have encouraged me. I grew up in an encouraging household. I'm so grateful for that. I know many people didn't, but it made such a difference for me that my parents encouraged me. They challenged me at other times, but at different times, they encouraged me. Different aspects of the way I was doing things, who I was. It was affirmed. And any healthy church needs lots of Barnabases, lots of encouragers. Barnabas wasn't his real name. It was his nickname. Because why? Because it's just who he was. It's like, this is what they began to call him because he was so encouraging. And any healthy church needs lots of people who encourage them. He asked questions, he encouraged, he imparted vision. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. And commentators will argue, and depending where you come from, you can find commentators will argue in different ways. What does he mean, on this rock? Is he talking about Peter? Peter means rock, but he doesn't build on a human being, does he? No. On this revelation that Jesus is the Messiah, on people that will build from revelation that comes not from the world but from heaven. That's what I can build my church on. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. The truth is that most people don't understand what they are capable of through Christ. And Jesus is there wanting to help them understand that suddenly, now they're followers of his, now he's at work in their lives, everything becomes possible. And he wants to lift our sights and encourage us to step out. All the time he's wanting to do that. He wants to encourage us to take hold of his authority and make a difference in the world. He wants to use us to bring about change in our family, on our street, in our workplace, amongst our friends. Whatever season of life you're in, he wants to use you. He invites you to partner and partake in his work. And he loves to say, you can do it. Yes, step into my work with me. I'm giving you authority. When I was at school, I had a Christian teacher who was just an incredible encouragement to me in all sorts of ways. And in my second year, he said to me, look, you've got a group of friends who seem to be asking some questions. Why don't you, I'll put on some drinks and some nibbles. Why don't you invite them? I was at a boarding school. Why don't you invite them to come and we can look at a Bible passage together and just see if it helps them. And so I said, okay, I can do that. I can get people together. So I got a few people. I had these friends. They came. We sat in the room with him, and we had these nice drinks and nibbles. Even had shandy. Felt very, very radical in a boys' boarding school as a 15-year-old. Whoa, shandy. So we were there, had nibbles, and then we did the Bible study, and then they went, and he did a bit of a debrief afterwards. Do you think it went all right? What do you think? Anything we could do better? And we talked around it and thought, no, I think they really enjoyed it. Great. He said, well, why don't we do it next month? And we can invite them and see if they want to invite any of their other friends. We'll do the same. I'll put on drinks and nibbles. But this time, you lead the Bible study. And it's like, what? No. Yeah, just do the next bit that we've done. Well, just go on. It was simple, wasn't it? You see what we did? You do it. Well, I'll tell you what, I've never read the Bible as much in that next few weeks. Like, I've got to get myself ready. You do it. He was like actually going. He was saying, you can do this. And God was using him to help me to step out and to step further and to go further. And that was part of his journeys with me. And that's what he wants to do and help us all to do. I'm going to be at a funeral on Friday of a church leader who, when I was just turning 23, said to me, do you know what? Why don't you think about planting a church in Carnarvon? And those young people who've come to faith, they've got no church that they could really find anywhere to connect with, they could become part of that, couldn't they? And I'm like, me? But she saw something. She said, yeah, why don't you think about that? You do it. And I'm so grateful for people that have, at different points, been used by God to prompt me to see beyond what I was able to see for myself. So he taught. From that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. We haven't really got time to unpack this, but let me just say that the kingdom of God is an upside-down kingdom, totally different from anything in the world, and therefore it does need to be taught and explained. Because if people just assume, well, this is the same way, it works the same way that the world does. No, it's totally different. And the Gospels describe one of Jesus' main activities as being teaching the good news of the kingdom. Constantly explaining, this is how it works in my kingdom. And it's different to every other kingdom. So he asked questions, he encouraged, he imparted vision, he taught. Sorry, I'm getting myself behind on these slides, so I'm ahead by reading the scriptures. And then he adjusted, brackets, strongly. Right? And this is like a bit of a roller coaster of following Jesus. Peter's just gone on this amazing thing of being, yes, you're so good, you've done it brilliantly, I've revealed this to you, well done, Peter, and I've got all this vision of the way that I'm going to build in you and through you, etc., and all the things that I can do in you and through you. And then it says, Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. Never, Lord, he said, this shall never happen to you. And Jesus turned and said to Peter, just a nice little gentle rebuke, wasn't it? Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. Because now you don't have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. And it's like, before, you were getting this from heaven. Now you're seeing things with a totally different perspective, a human view. And because I want to work in you and through you, it matters that actually this gets challenged. And you don't just get to just take on a role that is wrong and inappropriate. And in his love, Jesus disciplines and adjusts us and challenges us. Why? Because he's wanting to help us to become more like him. He's wanting to help us to see things with the right perspective. Again and again and again. That's what a good parents do. They discipline because they love. They want the best for someone. And part of our discipleship journey involves discipline. We're nearly there. He unashamedly called them to sacrifice. Then Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. He unashamedly expected them to be prepared to give 1.5 hours on a Sunday. And if you were keen, maybe a bit of time in the middle of the week to meet with others. No, to give everything. He expected them to follow in his footsteps, to take up their cross. This is what he invites us to. Not just say, all right, I've done this for you, so now you can have a nice, easy life where everything's just simple and no trouble and no ease. No, I've done this for you, and now I'm asking you to do the same thing. If you want to follow me, this is what it means. And of course, this is now playing with their heads because they understood that Messiah was going to be on the side of victory and going to sort the Romans out and everything's going to be sorted and like, well, we're just on the right side, aren't we? Well, they are on the right side, but that doesn't mean there's no challenge, there's no difficulty, there's no cross. The only way can be on the outside is through the cross. Be on the right side is through the cross. He unashamedly called them to sacrifice. And we are not meant to make things dead easy for people. And he won't want to make things dead easy for us. He calls us to lay down our lives. And finally, he gave them eternal perspective. He says, whoever wants to save their life, he says, will lose it. And yesterday, we were hearing from Matthias about the invitation to be a loser. That's the invitation that Jesus makes. And I found it quite provoking because I don't like being a loser particularly. But this is what he invites us to do, to be a strategic loser. Whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world and yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels. And then he will reward each person according to what they have done. Do you know what? It is incredibly easy to get caught up with this present world and to invest everything into that. But you know what? Jesus is clear that that's foolish. I wonder if just for a moment you could imagine we are now in end of February, aren't we? And summer's not that far off. And maybe some of you have booked your summer holidays and you're planning to go, you've got a nice cottage to go somewhere. Maybe we'll say Robin Hood's Bay, just on the east coast, and you've got a nice holiday cottage to go for a week. And in June, you'll be heading there and that'll all be nice. And when you get there, what happens? You walk in and you go, ooh, carpets aren't my favorite color. And then you go and you go, do you know what? I think it would be better with a different sort of fridge. And then, I could think curtains would be better as well. And I could do with some slightly different furniture. And you spend all your week going out, buying new carpets and paying for it to get laid and sorted. You do a bit of decorating. You spend all your week doing that and spend huge amounts of money to put it as you think it should be. Well, you would never do that, would you? It'd be stupid because you're there just to have a holiday. You're passing through. It's not yours. And you wouldn't do that. And yet, you know what? If we're not careful, that's what we can be like in this life. We invest into the wrong things in such a foolish, stupid way. And Jesus will always want to try and bring us back to have an eternal perspective, to live with an eternal perspective. Don't allow yourself to get lulled in to thinking this is your home. It isn't. And the truth is that just as Jesus was committed to helping Peter become more like him, so he's committed to you and to me. However long, you may have been a Christian for years, you may have not yet become a Christian. Today, this morning, he wants to invite you afresh to say yes to this incredible roller coaster of a journey of transformation, where you allow him to ask you the questions, where you allow him to change your perspective